Birds of prey are the hunters of the sky, powerfully equipped carnivores whose roots reach back to the age of the dinosaurs. Most, like eagles and falcons, hunt during the day. But the owl can detect its prey at night, with a body designed to home in on a kill, even in complete darkness. Vultures are hunters too, though they prey on the dead. These voracious scavengers work together to strip the carcasses of large animals. For all their variety, birds of prey are savage and graceful, nature's monarchs of the air. Scotland in April, and a late snow covers the ground. A male golden eagle is hunting for food. Like other birds of prey, all the parts of his anatomy combine to create a highly efficient predator. Strong talons for grasping prey, a muscular chest, and powerful wings which help him lift it, and a sharp beak for tearing it open. These are the defining features of birds known as raptors. The golden eagle feeds mainly on rabbits, hares, and grouse, though it's strong enough to kill a deer calf. Golden eagles are among the largest birds of prey. They can measure 3 feet from beak to tail, with a wingspan of 7 feet. As in most birds of prey, the female is larger than the male. Along with hawks, falcons, kites, and buzzards, they are diurnal raptors, which means they hunt by day. High up on the sides of a Scottish cliff, golden eagles nest in an eyrie. The female is feeding her young. She tears the meat into small strips to make it easier for them to digest. However, the mother is unable to leave the nest to hunt. The thin down on newborn chicks provides little insulation, and they are vulnerable to the cold, so the mother must keep them warm by brooding. For the next 10 days, the whole family will rely on the hunting skills of the male. Birds of prey need patience, stealth, and above all, keen senses. Eagles rely on their sight. Unlike many birds, raptors have eyes which point forward, giving them binocular vision. By using both eyes to view the same object, they can see depth and are able to judge distances with great accuracy. They also have a third eyelid called a nictitating membrane, which protects their eyes, particularly when they attack. For centuries, people have known that birds of prey have good eyesight, hence the expression eagle-eyed. But until 20 years ago, no one had tested their vision scientifically. Liz Raymond, an Australian research scientist, was the first to develop an eye test for eagles.
The biggest difficulty with testing any animal's vision is that you can't talk to them directly, so it all has to be done by indirect means.
Liz solved this problem with a simple but ingenious experiment. In the first stage, she trained an eagle to distinguish between images projected onto two screens.
They have two choices. One is the black and white line of equal widths, and the other one is a projection of a homogeneous grey field. And what you ask the eagle to do after a lot of training is to fly to the black and white lines, and if the bird does that, then he would receive a food reward.
Liz then made the black and white lines progressively thinner. The idea was to determine when the eagle could no longer distinguish the screen with the lines from the gray screen. At this point, the eagle wouldn't know which screen to fly to.
When he starts making the mistakes, or he's got 50% right and 50% wrong, then you can say that that's the actual limit of his resolving power.
Liz was then able to compare the eagle's eyesight with that of humans.
The results were quite surprising. If you hold your finger out, your thumbnail out about that distance, and if across your thumbnail you draw 60 black lines of equal widths and interspersed with white lines of the same width, that's about the amount of detail that humans can resolve. But the eagle could see up to about 132 black lines, about 2.5 times as well as humans can see.
One of the reasons for their powerful vision is their large eyes. If our eyes were in the same ratio to our body size, they'd be as big as oranges. A big eye allows a larger image to be projected onto the retina at the back of the eye. This image is decoded for color and detail by light-sensitive receptors called cones. An eagle's retina has 600,000 cones per square millimeter, 4 times as many as in humans. But eagles' eyes are practically fixed in their sockets and can only be turned a few degrees. To compensate for this, the eagle's neck is incredibly flexible and can twist all the way around. Not all birds of prey have such powerful eyesight. Smaller raptors, like the kestrel, have smaller eyes, and their visual acuity is little better than ours. Despite this, kestrels can see things we can't. This is because they have specialized cones that can detect ultraviolet light. These help them find their favorite food, voles. Voles feed during the day. Hidden in the grass, they are difficult to see. But they have one weakness, their bladder. They leave a trail of urine wherever they go. Urine reflects ultraviolet light. And to a kestrel searching for food, these trails are perfectly visible from the air. This time, the vole escapes. As the light fades at the end of the day, diurnal raptors like the golden eagle give up the hunt. Their eyesight is adapted to work best in bright light. In low light, their vision is worse than ours, and they are unable to see their prey. When the moon rises, the nocturnal birds of prey come out to hunt. Barn owls are completely at home in the dark. They have all the features of the diurnal birds of prey, from their sharp talons to their strong beaks, but their eyes are different. In low-light conditions, they are 100 times more sensitive than ours. Still, there are times when even a barn owl's eyes are not sensitive enough for hunting. The film in these canisters was the first photographic evidence that owls could hunt without any light at all. In 1957, Roger Payne of Cornell University carried out an unusual experiment.
I knew that owls had asymmetrical ears. The ears weren't the same on the two sides of the head. And that was curious. It meant ears were important to owls. I had to be doing something with them. So I put an owl on a perch in a darkened room, and I then released a mouse into leaves on the floor of the room. And the mouse, as it moved around, made noise, banging into the leaves and crushing them. And suddenly, in the darkness, the owl struck, and I turned on the lights, and it was holding the mouse. I just couldn't believe it. And later on, I got hold of an infrared viewing device, which makes it possible to look in infrared, which the owl can't see and we can't see. And then I could watch what was going on, and it was just fascinating.
Throughout the winter in a small shed on the campus, he used infrared light to watch barn owls hunt. He recorded what he saw on infrared film.
What we got to remember is that throughout this whole time, the owl can't see a thing. There's enough infrared to expose the film, but the owl can't see an infrared. But here he goes. He's flying along. He brings his feet into a pattern right there, which is exactly lined up with the mouse's body. He then closes his eyes because he knows he's about to hit something. He lands, and he's missed. The mouse is sitting right next to him, not 2 inches from his foot, but he can't see it. So he folds his wings. Ooh, and then he looks at the mouse because the mouse has just made a sound. And now he leans way forward. He's 6 inches from it. And at this moment, he does a curious thing. He brings his feet from the floor all the way up and puts them out like that because it's the only way he can line them up with what he's hearing. Here he goes. Wham, he nails it right there. Make sure that it wasn't that it was homing on the smell of the mouse, or that it had actually seen the mouse somehow, or that maybe it was looking at the mouse in the infrared heat that a mouse gives off. I took a small wad of paper, dragged that through leaves, and the owl struck the paper. paper doesn't smell, it doesn't have any infrared coming off it, it doesn't look like a mouse to anybody, not even an owl, and the result is it had to be sound. Sound was what they were using.
At first sight, the barn owl doesn't appear to have ears at all, unlike its cousin, the long-eared owl. Looks, however, can be deceiving. The tufts are only for display. Its real ears, like the barn owl's, are hidden under the feathers alongside its eyes.
Everything about the way an owl looks, the reason an owl looks like an owl, is all to do with acoustic adaptations. In other words, adaptations for hearing. One of the most obvious ones is this circle of feathers around both sides of the head. Actually, this is one parabola to collect sound for this ear, and this is another parabola to collect sound for that ear, which is actually very much like cupping your hand behind your ear as a means of collecting more sound. And you can also see another peculiar thing. Owls sit with their bills pointed down like this, looking at the world. And the reason they do is to maximize the surface area over which they can collect sound. If this was a robin or some other bird, songbird, the bill would be held roughly horizontally like that. But no, they tilt it way down. And the reason they do that is because this dimension of the head is greater than that dimension of the head. That whole posture is part of why an owl looks like an owl.
The barn owl locates the direction of a sound in two ways. When the mouse makes a noise, the sound reaches one ear a fraction of a second before it arrives at the other. This minute time difference enables the owl to work out the left-right direction of the mouse. When the mouse is directly in front of the owl, the sound arrives at both ears at exactly the same time. Now it has to calculate if the mouse is above or below.
If you cut just that collection of feathers in the very center here that help the air flow by smoothly, then you get what we've done here to this owl, which is a stuffed owl that's had just those feathers removed, nothing else. So right here you can see that there are two flaps of skin, and those flaps are directly in front of the ear opening. The ear opening is back here. But they're asymmetrically placed. One is higher than the other one. This one is actually lower than that one.
These asymmetric flaps gather the sound from the mouse in different ways. The noise of rustling leaves comes from below the owl. The sound passes under the high flap, which is on the left side of the owl's head, and is reflected by the ruff into the ear. The low flap on the right side deflects the sound coming from below. When the sound is louder in the left than the right ear, the owl knows it's coming from below. By combining the up-down with the left-right information, it pinpoints the mouse with great precision. The mouse, however, has ears of its own. If it hears the owl coming, it can simply run away.
There's a fight between owls and mice. Mice have ways to avoid owls. Owls have ways to improve their chances of catching a mouse, and this is one of them. The very leading edge of the feather that is in the front on the wing has a little series of tiny little spikes that stick out on it.
No other bird of prey has these spikes. The leading edge of an eagle's wing is smooth. As the eagle flies, its wings cut through the air, creating turbulence. This turbulence creates large sound waves, making it noisy in flight. When an owl flies, the tiny spikes